kind of wanted to ask you a question about this, and I think this podcast is the perfect place for me to ask. As somebody who's not only a licensed minister, but also somebody who owns a mental health business and is an advocate of getting mental health help whenever you need, how do you feel the two overlap? Do you feel like one interferes with the other in a sense? Do you feel like the obsession with religion, maybe that's not the right word, but do you feel like the obsession with religion can be a negative in regards to getting mental health help?
I think so.
Okay.
And that's why I guess for me it didn't work. Mm-hmm. It did not work for my mental health. Now I can say this though, it did help me grow as a person. Okay. And there are different things that you experience in life. They kind of teach you how to grow as a person. And I can honestly say that is something that did not work at the time for me with the mental struggles that I was dealing with. Religion is all based on doctrine. It's really doctrine. So whatever a congregation teaches, they focus on a certain doctrine. They focus on certain beliefs. So you can imagine if they focus on certain beliefs, there are other things that they don't focus on. Mm-hmm. And they will always be the elephant that's in the room. That'll never be addressed. We can make a list of those things. But once again, this platform is for mental health. So if we could focus on that and kind of like connecting the two. Mm-hmm. As a young minister, I've always wanted to connect it. Mm-hmm. And I've struggled to connect it in the very beginning. Because prior to giving my life to Christ, I actually had I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 5, 6, and they said, a little bit of depressive disorder in there as well. But that was because of my ability to connect with other people. Brain is going faster. It's going a whole lot faster than, the normal brain, which is pretty much going at this rate. So I learned to embrace that. I learned to embrace that as a part of my identity. And that's what we want to say when it comes to the whole dealing with mental health within the Black community. Because we're so conditioned to believe that, with the churches, providing or what other platforms are going to provide for us, that's the way. That's the way to go. You remember seeing that one kid that has glasses and nobody else has glasses? Yeah. I'll never forget that when I coached football. I seen that one kid. All the kids are surrounding him. Yes. Yeah, the James Worthies. Yeah, the James Worthy type glasses. Yep. And all the kids are just, so you know what I did? I actually had a pair and I pulled it right on out. Yeah. And the kids are just like, And I was like, yo, you super cool, man. You got supervision now. Yeah. What I tried to do, I tried to make it like a superpower. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that approach to it. When you look at the communities, I've always wondered, especially as I was growing up, what makes our community different from other communities when it comes to mental health, why we won't seek it. And I think we have to look back at some historical things.
Come on.
Our mistrust in the medical and mental health system came from previous things that have happened in the past. So I don't remember a lot of the details, but I do remember there was a Tuskegee syphilis study that, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe they injected some of these individuals with syphilis purposely without those individuals' knowledge.
Okay.
And so they were saying things like that have led to our community not having trust in the medical system in general.
That's right.
And so church almost became kind of a substitute for that.
Exactly.
I think. And so any kind of generational trauma or anything that's passed on from generations, it's very difficult to break those things. So
facts.
I'm glad that we've gotten to a point, and I don't know how you feel about it. I do think that we've made a lot of progress within the community. The fact that we have an agency, or the fact that you have an agency that we all work at that is it's a mental health agency. That's right. And it's successful. That alone, and a lot of our clientele are African Americans. So I feel like that shows progress. But I do feel like we still have a long way to go.
Oh, it definitely does. So I'm not trying to be, funny, but I think of the short bus thing. Like, so in the 90s, it just seemed like, in the 80s and 90s, mental health seemed to be that short bus type of thing. I actually, growing up, my uncle was schizophrenic, and my uncle, he still is, but I was the kid that had the schizophrenic uncle. When he wasn't on his medication, the kids in the neighborhood, what's your uncle doing? And I'm looking at them like, what? And they're like, your uncle's at it again. So, my uncle really, and prior, he was an engineer, so he had a condition where, later in the 90s, he learned how to manage his symptoms. He learned how to manage, those things, while my grandmother was the one that, she was going to church. But, my uncle didn't have church as his anchor. And that's what is important for us in the Black community. And I think that's why church is probably one of the big pillars for us, is because we look to be anchored. We look to be affirmed. We look to be, pointed in the right direction and to be significant. That's the need for everybody to feel wanted, right? Absolutely. To feel purposed. Yeah. And ministry and church is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, brick and mortar place that we can go. But look at this Lord Jesus. Tongue twister. Look at this statistic. In 2022, suicide was the third leading cause of death for Black and African Americans ages 10 to 24.
That's alarming.
The death rate for suicide for Black and African American males was more than 4 times higher than Black or African American females in 2020. The overall suicide rate for Black or African Americans was 50% lower than that of the non-Hispanic white population in 2020.
I want to talk about that real quick because whenever suicide is, and once again, I feel like we should always be transparent on this podcast, and I'm comfortable enough to share that I have had instances of having thoughts, those type of thoughts. When you get there, that usually generally means that in your mind, you have reached the point of there's nothing left.
Correct. Okay.
I have no help. I have no other avenues to go. I feel like a lot of that comes from though stigmas and gender roles that we enforce within our own community.
Correct.
Like I said, a lot of people don't like to have the discussion because we don't like to look in the mirror sometimes. And I think that's a human trait. I understand that, but I think it is necessary to talk about it. Women and men, let's look at women first. Black women carry I have to be the strong Black woman that handles everything, that takes on everything. And with that comes, I feel like, some reluctance to go to someone else and say, I need. Mm-hmm. They're expected to just take it all on, Mm-hmm. Think about how many single mothers we know that have 3, 4, 5 kids. They're working 2, 3 jobs, still trying to figure out how to get their kids to school, get them back home from school, make sure they're fed, make sure that nobody knows that the kids are home by themselves because they got to make this money. But then we also know that if someone finds out that the kids are there by themselves, CPS could get called. But they feel like that's what I've been told I have to do. And then let's look at it from the perspective of Black men. Okay. We are taught that we cannot be vulnerable. We cannot be sensitive. That's right. What are you doing crying? Fix your face. What are you crying? What you whining for? Yep. What do they say? Pick up your bootstraps or
man up.
Yeah. Pick your bootstraps and just deal with it. Yep. Take it. Yep. Life gonna throw you a bunch of hurdles. You just gotta deal with it. Get over it. That's right. That's a very, very toxic mindset. And I understand where it came from. Like I said, we talked about some of the historical trauma that we dealt with in the community. Mm-hmm. But when it trickles down to the children, that's when you get numbers like what you just gave us. That's when you get statistics like what you just gave us. We have to do a much better job of breaking that.
You just gave me 2 ideas. 2 things came to my mind.
I want to briefly, and I hope he doesn't, I'm not going to, put his name out there, but you know my nephew. Yeah. And we were sitting in the shed. We got the man shed out there. Yes. The he shed as they call it. Yep. And, we both lost our dad recently, within the past few years. And he was talking about it. He just looked at me when we were watching a football game. He just looked at me. He was like, yo, you ever miss him? I was like, what you talking about? He was like, Papa. That's what he called Papa. And I was like, yeah, every day, man. He was like, yo, cry about it. I was like, and I told him straight up, I said, I used to be scared, but I'm learning that it's okay. That's right. Now I'm 40 years old, man. It's a shame that it took me this long to accept that is an acceptable emotion, an expression of an emotion to have. Yeah. But to me, that's just a testament to the struggles that we have with accepting those vulnerable feelings and being vulnerable. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. I would like for you to continue with that, if you don't mind. Just share, because not everybody. There's a great population, like what you said, that they're used to the moms being the provider and the emotional support person. You as an adult and him as a child, both of you guys have lost your fathers. So we're looking at a lot of fatherless generational youth that struggle with mental health, and I want to hear it, man.
Yeah, it was something, and me and you have talked about this in some of our private conversations, man, about how I think when I really did deal with some of the negative thoughts that I was having, it was because I had so much bottled up. I don't know if you remember this, but the day my dad passed, I came into the office the next day, and I
remember that.
I've never now y'all gotta understand, I've been friends with this dude for I think over 10 years.
Yeah, over 10 years, yeah.
I've never seen him look at me with so much like, what are you doing right now? Like, why are you here? But I felt like I had to. I felt like I can't sit at home and just mope and cry and soul. Like, nah. I gotta get up, I gotta go, I gotta provide for my family. But that mindset is how it built up silently, because I didn't cry. My dad died, and his wife, his common law wife, she called me wailing, crying on the phone, and I just sat there and I comforted her. My sister called me bawling. I'm comforting her. My wife cried. and I'm comforting her. This is we're talking about my dad, and I was more so concerned with just making sure everybody else was okay, and I never took the time to make sure I was okay. And it built up, and one day I felt like I had an internal explosion of emotion, and I'm mature enough now to reflect and to be able to understand that it was because I didn't allow myself to properly grieve, because I feel like I was always taught that. I don't want to say I was taught, but I feel like society has kind of made me feel like, this is life, you got to just wake up and deal with it, man. Like, and I never took the time to properly grieve, and because of that, when I did finally grieve, it wasn't as healthy as I would have liked it to be, and I felt like that's what led to me having some of those thoughts and dealing with some of those, some of those hurdles that I had. But because of that, and having a friend like you obviously has been a very big part of that as well. Having a nephew who is learning to, express his emotions to me and share his thoughts, and understanding that he looks at me as a secondary father figure, and that it's my job to make sure he knows that it's okay.
That's right.
If you want to come in here, I don't care if you want to come in here and you just cry the whole time you're in here. If you need to do that, that's okay. That's okay. And sometimes I wish, I had that when I was growing up, but I think it's not just an individual thing. It's not just a my family thing. It's a community. It's a culture thing, and I think it's something that we really have to work on. And like I said, having these type of discussions, I think are a good step in the right direction.
I agree. I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Of course, man. Absolutely.
That's really, I know that's really, touchy for you.
Yeah.
And then, growing up, I guess, with the whole suicidal thing, I'm a suicide survivor. So, my thing was, going back to what you were saying, I felt like me being here was just taking space, like I was a burden, because it was every time I turned around, it was something. Yeah. So, but, that was the narrative that I placed on myself at that time, being so young. But, my mom and father separated. So, of course, I was having a lot of separation anxiety from my father. Yeah. I remember the day of, it was snowing, and we were leaving to get on the plane to head to the States. So it's still a trauma, like you said. And trauma to me is just like one of those things. It's like spam, spam in your inbox. If you don't take the time to really deal with it, it just piles up. And of course, we know chronic trauma, complex trauma. It seems like it gets really difficult, and it gets to this point where you're just like, what's my real email? What's fake email? What's spam? I mean, I'm trying to get the stuff that I really need in here. Yeah. But if we don't take the time out to really get rid of things, then and what I mean by get rid of things is really like process, like you were saying, with the loss of your father, like you said about men and women, since we have that ego driven, and, since we're trying to, be providers and be emotional support people for everybody else, we tend to neglect a lot of stuff for ourselves. And mental health can become this thing that we look at like spiders, or like any other thing that we don't fully understand. If we fully don't understand it, and we're trying to really process our day, we're not going to take the time to try to understand it. And what I'm referring to are symptoms. So with everybody's mental health, there are symptoms that we exhibit certain parts of the year, certain parts of the day, certain parts of our lifetime. And what I mean by that is, some people, I hear menopause. I got early stages of menopause. Oh, Lord. And really, it could be hydration. It could be lack of sleep. It could be high blood pressure. It could be a whole lot of different things, and we don't, like I said, necessarily take the time out I like to be my own doctor before I go to the doctor. And what I mean by that is I'm not trying to, take a whole bunch of OTCs, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to recall the things in my mind and what I ate or what I did. How much sleep did I get? What's going on around this time of the year? How do I normally respond to cold? How do I normally respond to being around a lot of people? Yeah. When you're around a lot of people don't realize this. It has an effect on you. Yeah. All that vibration and energy that you're getting, within your body. I mean, it affects you. It can make you moody. Yeah. You ever heard of heat aggression? Yeah. No, like when somebody get mad because they hot, they nose start sweating. Yep. You looking at them like, oh, you angry? They just hot. Yeah. But some people don't even know how to say, I'm just hot. Yeah. Or you go to a store, like Target, and you see that guy, and this actually happened, and you see the police surrounding him, and you're wondering what's going on with him. I found myself in a situation like that.
I believe we talked about a situation where you came across an individual who was in a bad situation, cops around him, and you were able to talk to him on a human level. Yeah. Get to him. I bet you got a different response, didn't you?
Yeah. First thing I noticed that they were really close to him. So we don't know how somebody feels when you get in their space. I mean, fight or flight response right there. I mean, the last time somebody was in their face like that, you mentioned it. You said trauma. So we don't respect trauma. On a whole natural level, personally and individually.
Talk that talk.
We don't respect trauma. We don't respect each other's trauma either.
And that's a big one.
Big one.
A huge one. I personally, I feel like we've gotten comfortable with the get over it mentality.
Ooh.
And
Bars.
And also I wanted to kind of piggyback on something else you were saying too. I don't think people realize the weight and the impact that just expectation, not just from the people in your house, not just from the people in your job, just from society in general.
Okay.
Expectation can create stress.
Come on, bro. Talk
anxiety.
about it. Talk about that. That's a big one.
Yeah. And it's something that we talked about before. If you don't hone in, if you don't have someone you can talk to, if you don't use healthy strategies, and of course we're going to get to that, towards the end, because we want to make sure that this is a podcast that you can listen to and say, hey, like,
This
what
can be
can
a
I
full
do? But I feel like when you have those expectations, like you said, you see that guy in the store who somebody might bump him. And the other day, he might have just been like, oh, my fault, excuse me.
Yeah.
But that day, everything just built up. And he hasn't been able to release it in a healthy way. So that, oh, excuse me, now turns into, yo, what's your problem?
Exactly.
And now, and then and you know how it is. It only takes 1 second to start get the dominoes rolling on a bad situation.
Oh, yes, sir.
It only takes 1 second. When we don't properly deal with those feelings, when we don't properly deal with those things, unfortunately, sometimes it does come out like that. And that's when you see these videos online of people just, as the kids say, crashing out because they haven't properly dealt with the feelings and the emotions that they're experiencing from the.
That's so true. That's so true. Man, that's heavy, man. That is so heavy. Expectation in other people and expecting them for them to do what we want them to do is actually manipulation. Believe it or not.
Ooh, hold on.
So man, if I open the door for somebody and I'm being polite, okay, I can only control what I can do and the outcome that I can provide. They say, what is it? 10% is life, but 90% is how you respond to the 10% of that of our life.
Ooh,
so
I like that. Okay.
The door is open. Go in. Okay. You're supposed to say thank you. So to me, my expectation is for somebody to say thank you. I'm doing a nice thing by holding the door open. If you tell me thank you or not, that's not in my power. I'm trying to control something that I can't control. That is manipulation. So you would want the response to be thank you, but hold the door open without a response. See what happens. And so that's what I believe we should start learning how to control only what we can within ourselves, not within somebody else.
And it's funny that you say that because, obviously we won't talk about details for confidentiality purposes, but I was working with a client where I did have an activity that said, and one thing what you can control, and then the next box, what you can't control. Once you identify that, now that's the easy part. I said identifying it. The hard part is learning to accept it. And learning to understand, like, okay, I can't make you say thank you. Should I let that ruin my day? Should I allow that to? It's almost like what we were talking about kind of before the episode started. Control. You don't want, and we don't want to allow anybody else to control our feelings, control our emotions. So, and it's hard. I'm 40. I'm still trying to figure it out. But acknowledgement is always the first step.
Oh yes, it is.
Any attempt to make progress.
That's right.
So we have to acknowledge that. And I actually think, man, and that's a good transition to what I wanted to ask you as well. Obviously, like we said, the fact that we're here at a mental health agency, it's proof that we are making progress. What do we need to do to make more progress? Because yes, we made progress, but clearly it's not. We need to continue to work harder. We can't be complacent.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions for what we can do to, as a community, to make more progress? So that we can lower some of those numbers, that we were just talking about.
Yeah, we have to accept uniqueness. We have to be looking. Uniqueness is not a weakness. It's distinctiveness. It's not the crutch to life. It's actually the beacon.
Can you tell them what you mean when you say like uniqueness, like accepting uniqueness? Like is that like the kid that goes to school and maybe he just loves watching anime, or the kid that goes and he doesn't like sports,
exactly,
or, like being like that. When you say
exactly. It's being the kid in a neighborhood. In that neighborhood, you're that one kid that's different from everybody else. I mean, let's talk about ASD for a quick second. Those are on the spectrum. They're very unique and different, and they have very specific qualities that a lot of people don't have. I'll say that I feel, and this is my belief, like individuals like, I have to say his name only for this, Elon Musk. I believe he's on the spectrum. That's just my thoughts.
I tend to agree with you, sir. But we ain't
So I don't want to focus too much attention on him on that, but just using him as an example. I see the uniqueness. I see the qualities in him that are really different, and unfortunately, because individuals are so unique, they're treated a certain way. Not him specifically, but those that are ASD,
that's a great example.
That.
That's a great example.
Yeah, so individuals that are ASD, their minds work a little different on the social level, so it's hard to accept them. And individuals that are also dealing with some form of mental health due to trauma or due to just having it, they could be ostracized as being their own person. You see a room full of gray and black, and then there's that red, purple, or whatever color person, and they're like, you're not like the rest of us. So we always look to assimilate people, meaning, what you wearing, FUBU? We ain't wearing FUBU since the 90s. Why you wearing FUBU?
Right.
What kind of shoes you wearing? British Knights. What in the world? You mean British Knights back in the 90s? If you had a pair of British Knights on, boy, you got joked.
That's no, but it's funny because even I mentioned my age like 4 times today. Look, y'all don't be calling me old, anything like that. But like, even as a 40-year-old, I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, you got on some Adidas pants, but your shirt is so and so and so."
Nike.
And
Checks and stripes.
Yeah, and I really had people like, even at this big age of mine, say like, "Oh man, like you gotta get it together, man." And I'm like, if I cared more, that's the beginning of how that separation where you feel like you said ostracized, and then you start to isolate. And once again, what did we say before? It's a domino.
It is.
Nothing ever happens instantaneously.
No, it doesn't.
It's usually a progression, and that can be the beginning. Now, granted, I'm at an age now where I'm like, I don't care, bro. Like, I'm gonna wear what I'm comfortable wearing. You know what I'm saying? But it took a long time to get there.
Yes, it did.
A long time to get there. And I know that there are people that may be listening to this that haven't got it. And we know that a lot of what causes African Americans to struggle with or to be reluctant to get mental health help as well is lack of resources, lack of, the accessibility, lack of accessibility.
That's right.
A lot of times insurances don't cover. A lot of times they don't have insurance. So I think my question is, when those limitations are present, what are some other things that you can do to get help or to take steps in the right direction? Because I feel like as long as you're trying, you're moving in the right direction.
That's right. So this might kind of like help bridge that a little bit. I'm a big movie. I like watching movies. And,
we movie buffs. We movie buffs over here.
We are.
Come on.
We always talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Get to the chopper. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper!
We said we were going to talk about him every broadcast.
Everybody, listen. Come on, man. Come through. Come through, Arnold.
This ain't got nothing to do with Arnold. I promise. Other than the fact that it's a movie, but it's a cartoon movie. It's called Happy Feet. I liked Happy Feet because it was in a world of penguins that were singing and rapping, singing mainly. And there's this one that every time he opened his mouth, he couldn't sing. So he learned how to use his feet. He was different. And of course, you're different from us. But he ended up saving all the penguins because, the dude was like, oh man, look at the penguin with the feet dancing. And everybody started joining in and dancing. They were in survival mode, trying to get all the fish and everything, get off that little bowl they was in. So with that, they embraced the fact that this dude is different. At some point, you have got to stay consistent to what you know about yourself that's unique and different, because you're going to frustrate yourself and you might find yourself in a very depressive mode trying to be like everybody. Case in point, this is why suicide rate is high to me, is we're trying to conform. The grass is not always greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it. So we have to embrace the uniqueness about us. Find ways that you can do that. Google is amazing at finding resources to help. That is a basic start. If I want to start right now, this very moment, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to search for some type of help. And the type of help that you can get, first and foremost, I would have to say it can be a pastor. There's nothing wrong with that. If you feel comfortable with being with a pastor, a youth leader, something to talk about something personal, you can do that. If it's a therapist, that's also great, because remember, therapy provides clarity. And as long as you just say, look, I have these things about me, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out what I can do to possibly get them out, or possibly to utilize them in a proactive way. The communities in our cities are always looking for people to do unique things. when it comes to planning, cleaning, being creative, whatever it is. Find your audience is what I'm saying. I believe that every person has a gift where they have an entourage of people that will not only support them, but will actually encourage them and push them and believe in them as long as they first believe in themselves or their self. I hope I answered that question.
No, that was a beautiful answer, and it actually led right into what I wanted to say. And this is coming from experience, everybody. Isolation can be good in certain aspects.
That's right.
Like we talked about before. Sometimes I have a long day, and shout out to my wife who she'll see me and be like, hey, go ahead, go to the shed. I know you need some time to go watch a football game. So like it can be good, but I also wanted to let you guys know that when you get to a point where you do feel like I need help, but I don't want to ask anybody for help, I just want you guys to remember you weren't born on your own. You didn't learn math on your own.
Yep.
You didn't learn how to drive on your own.
Yep.
This world is built on working together.
Oh yeah.
So there is no shame in coming to somebody and asking for help or telling them that you need help. Everything that you've learned in life, there's always been someone there to help teach you or to help. There's no shame in it. We've all done it all of our lives. Do not hesitate to reach out to somebody, because if you reach out to somebody and that person doesn't give you the response that you need don't give up. If you're in school, go to your counselor. If you're at work, go to your boss. If you are close to your family, go to your mom, go to your dad, go to your girlfriend, go to whoever. But it's necessary. It's necessary because sometimes we come up on things, we approach things that we can't handle on our own.
Come on, man. Come on.
And we have to be okay with accepting that sometimes you need some help.
No man's an island.
There you go. And there's no shame in it. And whether that's leaving a comment in here and just saying like, hey, whatever, reach out, because look, you weren't born alone. You didn't learn everything alone. So don't be ashamed to ask someone for help.
Yeah, and that's the other part with mental health with our community is mental health it seems like it's a weakness. It's the weakness, but we just talked about uniqueness is how it's addressed. So it's all a mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a mindset. For the communities, our African American communities, look at right now, if I go downtown Newport News and I'm like, with a client or whatever, hey, let's go to the store. The closest store to most areas, and, I guess we call them pockets, whatever you want to call them, are corner stores. Corner stores are considered food deserts. Food deserts are places that are really, they don't have a lot of produce. They may not have everything that they sell is processed. I mean, you can get chicken from 7-Eleven now, so it's just like all of these places, they have this processed food with red dyes, yellow dyes, and those types of ingredients, they actually make you more impulsive. They make you irritated. Yes, they increase your high blood pressure. They can lead to diabetes. So the access to more healthy foods. Now we talking about uniqueness. So we talking about you and your body, not just, your qualities and what you could do. We talking about taking care of your temple and taking care of your body. And, that's something that we don't preach enough that I believe. I mean, for church, what I'm saying? We're going to get them chicken dinners, what I'm saying? We got to get to this bus truck.
Hey, them chicken dinners be hitting though.
Chicken dinners do be hitting.
Yeah, they do be hitting.
Fish dinners. Fish dinners.
Yes, sir.
And every church got
don't talk about greens.
At least 5 to 10 of them the woman that can just throw down.
Oh yeah. Oh,
mama,
she be back there whipping that thing, tearing that thing up back there. And if you get in that kitchen, boy, you in trouble.
Look at the flick of the
So, but our diet is something that we want to see more our urban communities have gardens, urban gardens, have more access to places that they can go to access better quality foods. If we start to learn as our race, our culture starts to embrace these things, we're changing a lot of dynamics of getting up in the morning, because I believe in how you get up is how your day can reflect. So you get up, you eat breakfast. I was a kid that didn't like breakfast, but I learned how to embrace breakfast, a part of my life now. So, and that's because I demand more for myself. If you demand more from yourself, but not others, you're going to eat breakfast, because you're like, if you got a purpose, you're like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this and this and this. You're going to find yourself wanting to eat certain things a little bit more. So instead of grabbing for that little processed food and everything else, shout out to Hardee's, even though we had that this morning. We bad for that.
Even though they messed up my order, but it's all good. Hey, we still love you.
But know, I mean, we won't do that every day. So shakes, protein, going to the gym. You ain't got to go to the gym and be a meathead. You can go to the gym and just get the bare minimum if you want to.
They said 15 minutes a day. Even I mean, you're not gonna be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like second Arnold reference. You might not come out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But they said just 15 to 20 minutes a day is enough to significantly change. For the better.
Yes. That's right. That's right. So all of these things could be done holistically for a person. Focus on yourself. It's okay to be selfish in a way where you're trying to build yourself up. Or like you said, you mentioned self-accusation, or you mentioned something about self. What is it? The proverb, I think it's Socrates, know thyself. And I think the scripture says, examine yourself.
Yes.
So, I mean, take inventory of yourself, meaning, like you're at the store, produce or whatever. Examine what's inside you and your qualities.
I think to piggyback off of what you were saying, this is something that I did when I was kind of having some struggles. And I suggest, especially, a lot of you younger cats might, you might hear the word journal and you're like, I ain't writing no journal. Man, what I look like, man? I ain't doing no journal. Don't gotta be written.
That's right.
I had an audio journal for a while. And I did it because it allowed me, I tried to record it like between 10 and 11 every.
Okay.
And sometimes it would be like 30 seconds. Sometimes it would be a couple minutes. But it allowed me to go back and kind of assess myself, assess where I was at that time. It really gave me some clarity to how I was feeling, what was causing me to feel some of those things. Because oftentimes we never want to sit in negative. So sometimes you might have something happen and you'll try to purposely forget it almost. But if you can't confront the issue, then you can't solve the issue.
Facts.
If you can't acknowledge the issue, you can't solve the issue.
Facts.
You can't work towards it. And then the last thing I think that has helped me a lot is setting a schedule for myself. And I know schedule sounds like as well. But when I say schedule, I say it like, okay, so remember we went to a Steeler game, sir, a couple months ago.
Oh man.
Well, look,
we getting too hyped though. We getting too make this one fast.
No, but outside of that, remember when that night, people would probably be like, well, what y'all do when y'all up there? We played Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles on the Switch.
And I do things like I'll write on my schedule, hour to play the game, hour to just watch a space document. I've been in space a lot lately. Hour to watch space document. And writing down things that I want to do. That I'm like, I'm going to make time for this today.
Come on, man.
And doing it and then being able to cross it off my list. There's something about the vision.
Ooh, come on,
you know what I mean? And so write down what you want to do and hold yourself accountable to it.
Ooh.
It allows you to have once again, me and you were talking about that earlier. You have to make time for the things that make.
Did we just not talk about this before the podcast?
100%.
We have to take responsibility of our purpose and responsibility of ourselves. All these responsibilities, and I like how you just said what you said about the responsibility piece when we were talking about it. But you just mentioned a lot of things because it's all existing here in our mind. And it's nobody's job but ourselves to get those things out of our mind.
And nobody's going to take better care of you than you.
There you go. And that's a good way of saying it or doing it is actually to write it down. And if I can just share just a little bit, there's an acronym that we typically use. We talk about making treatment plans for yourself, basically. But there's an acronym that we use for our treatment planning. It's the SMART acronym. It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, like you were saying. So specific, the goal is clear, it's concise, it states what needs to be done exactly. All right, measurable, the goal includes how progress will be measured. Achievable, the goal is realistic and it's accomplished. You're trying to say, I'm trying to, like me, like I've been doing this thing with the 10 miles. I fell off.
Yeah.
But you know what I did? When I came back on Sunday, I ran again. Oh, I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
I ran again and I ran those 3 miles and I ran them faster than I did the previous week. So I met a goal. I looked at it positively. Okay. Now, I had to decrease because I didn't get 10. Yeah. So now I'm at least trying to get 6. Yeah. So, hey, it's within my limits because if it's outside of your limits and it's hard to obtain, you're going to lose it. I mean, you're not going to want to do it.
You got to adjust it to make it realistic.
Yeah, you can't see the ocean if you can't leave the shore. But Lord, don't leave the shore and go to the ocean if you can't swim like Chris. Because Lord, we might have to put a life thing out there to come get you.
2025, I'm going to learn how to swim, man. That's it.
I had to throw that out there.
We're going to talk about that in episode 6.
So make it realistic. Go out there. If you're gonna leave the shore, make sure you have your life vest on or somebody can swim or something.
So
And make it relevant. I'm sorry, two more.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Pick a rock, scissors.
All right, no, you got it because I was gonna.
So achievable. Oh, we said achievable. So also you want to make it relevant. The goal makes sense. It contributes to the desired outcome. All right, and then make it time bound. Like Chris was saying. All right, these are the things I'm taking care of today. These are the things I need to take care of on Friday. So shoot, brother, go ahead.
Were you still going over the thing, or
No, you good. That's
okay,
it.
so I wanted to end with something that I feel like is extremely important. I know we've been going on for a while. I think it's all very relevant information, but more importantly, I really wanted to touch on numbers that people can reach out to, or just ways that, in Virginia area, is it nationwide?
Nationwide, 988 is nationwide.
988 is a number that you can call if you are experiencing any kind of suicidal ideation, negative thoughts, and you don't have anybody to talk to. They will lead you in the right direction. If you're hearing this right now, write it down. If you can't remember it, save it in your phone, write it on your notepad. Do not be ashamed to reach out, as we were stating before. It's extremely important. Look, you're loved. We want you alive and well. I'm sure, and you may not know this, but there are other people in your circle, in your life that would be hurt if you were gone. So please do not hesitate to contact 988 if you are experiencing any type of negative thoughts or suicidal ideation. And I can let you take us home, see?
Yeah. So with that being said, you guys, just remember your mental health and your well-being is important to those that are around you, but most importantly to yourself.
Absolutely.
So take the necessary time to really look at that person in the mirror, and don't down that person in the mirror. Don't down them. They're already down enough. Build them back up. Find a way to find some positive in something. All right. Take time out to finding positive. And if you can, write it down. Put it on a sticky, like Chris said, and then you can put it on. Look, if you put it on a sticky, put it on that mirror in the bathroom, and then leave it there and remind yourself of who you are. Okay. And also remind yourself of whose you are. All right. Love you guys. This is it.
Hey, last
Till next
thing.
time.
It's amazing to get love from other people, but it ain't nothing like having that love for yourself.
Love
We
yourself.
out of here.
Love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself.